Okay, and then I'm going to go share my screen. I can find it. There we go. Share my desktop. All right, this is totally unscripted. As I said in my message, I'm so busy that I obviously didn't get an opportunity to do anything to prepare for tonight, but I didn't want to cancel again for the second time in a row, especially since the holidays are coming up. And we're probably going to be canceling some anyway until the new year. And I really was looking forward to getting to the brushes and going through those because those are pretty awesome things. But I just don't have time. So let me give you a little background. Kelly, you were involved in this. Kelly Combs was there at our first shoot a couple of weeks ago at Rockwell High School. And so you get a little idea of what we go through. And after that shoot, I've been spending a lot of time trying to get everything together. And that includes creating poster, creating banners, putting together the teams and individual images, and then individual posters. So I'm pretty swamped. Usually I have the individuals out there ordered the next day. Well, I just got them ordered today. So 2 weeks later is when I finally got to it to get those ordered. So part of the problem is that we had to shoot the teams as individual people and then put them together in a composite as a team. And you're talking about an average of maybe 15 to 18 people on a team, and there's 3 teams for each group, boys and girls. So you're talking about, extracting, what is that, like 75 kids and putting them all together in a team image. So not all together in one image, but all together in their own teams. So it was quite a task. And that is done now, except for Rockwell likes to do a group varsity team picture. So the boys and girls will be together. And then they do one, they call it the silly pose, where they just do some kind of silly thing. So I've got to put together, and that's about, there's 13 girls, and there's probably, oh, bless you. There's probably probably about 18 guys. So there's going to be about 40 kids that I have to put together in one team picture. So actually 2, because one's straight and one's silly. So that's going to be a challenge, but I'm going to do that later. So I thought tonight, what I have left to do is the banners and the individual posters, and then those 2 team pictures that I was talking about. So I thought tonight I would go through and show you how I do the banners. It's not going to be 100% because I've already got the background done. So let me just show you, and these take a lot of memory. So I have this memory thing at the top here that comes with Parallels, which I have so that I can run some Windows applications on my Mac. And it comes with a lot of utilities. And one of them is this memory thing that keeps track of how much memory is available. And you'll see it start to go down. And when it gets down to about 10 gigabytes, then I have to go in and flush my memory with the utility that comes here. So anyway, this is a template that I put together. And it doesn't look like much right now, but it will once you put a player in there. And basically, this is a picture of their floor here. And let me just kind of go down here and show you what I've done. Let's see. We'll look at it this way. This is the floor, and it's really shiny and really beautiful. It's got a lacquer coat on it, and it reflects the lights up above, which is 2 things I don't like for my stuff. I like grungy stuff. So what I did was I went in and replaced that with some textures in here, and to give it a little bit of a grungy look. And then I put some smoke on it. So I'm not going to go through these because there's really not a lot of time, but here's 3 textures I put in there. They're all at 15%, and they're on soft light. So it kind of gives this a little bit of more of a grunge look. And then I did some tonal changes to it too. I took down the saturation, and I changed the brightness and so on. So it gave it that look. Now the background here, it's their wall, but it's not their wall. What I mean by that is their wall, but I took off everything that was on it and put my stuff on there. So if you look at the wall, let's see, this is what it looked like. Right there, that's after I took everything off. This is the cushion that they have, so when the players running, run through the backboard, they can hit this cushion. Now they've added black all the way across. So this was a picture I actually took last year before they changed that. You can notice that the black backboard has been removed, and I did that because I wanted to add that JFND across there. JFND is for Jacket Fight Never Dies. That's one of their mantras. So they have JFND everywhere. So I did that. I adjusted some tones. I added what I call bling, which is these guys up here. I guess it's burned in here. So adjusted tone, clone away reflections. You saw those reflections. I took those out. I had a green cast to it. I did this a couple of weeks ago, and I opened it up this morning. And I look at it and I went, "What in the world?" It's got this green look to it. So I went in and did a color balance to take out that green look. Excuse me. So then, let's see, I put in these lights up here. These lights are there, but the shine, I need to take this, turn these off so you can see what I'm doing. The lights are here, but I added I have a light brush, and if you go out, you can find brushes, free brushes all over the place. And some time back, I have no idea when I did this, but I downloaded these light brushes. I use them occasionally because they're really great and easy to use. So that's what I did here to add that light. Let's see. And then there's more stuff. I added this smoke in here, added this background smoke here, and I got a little bit of foreground smoke. And you're going to see that as we add the players. There's actually more foreground smoke to this, but it's going to come on top of the player. So I have to put the player in first, and then we'll see that foreground smoke. Added the basketballs. There's 3 basketballs here. When I shot one of the players for the personal poster, they were actually using a basketball. One of them was doing a crossover, which is where they go back and forth in front of them, like they're dribbling down the court. They just back and forth. And so I was able to extract those basketballs and put them in here, and put a little bit of a shadow underneath them. So this is already done, and there's not anything else I have to do. All of them are going to get exactly the same banner background. It's just putting them in there. You can see up here in the tabs that I've got all the players open. All we have to do is go in and add them, and do our thing to them, or do my thing to them. You're going to see what my thing is. So let's go ahead and get started. Are there any questions about this? I didn't want to spend a lot of time on this because I know that you want to see some of the ways that I did this, but let me just tell you this. I'm not as slick as some of these guys on the internet. I can't go in here and know exactly where to go get this and where to go do that and come out with what I want. I come in here and it takes me a while because I do a lot of trial and error, and I try different things and finally come up with something that I really like. Sometimes I'll put it aside and come back the next day and look at it again and wonder why in the heck I did something, and go in and make a change. And then I'll go back and forth like that until I get what I'm looking for. I do that especially with a poster. If I'm doing a team poster. And by the way, I did do the team posters. Maybe I should show you those real quick. Let's see if I can.
Do you change your background every year?
Yes, absolutely. Every year the background is different. Every poster is different. Every individual poster I do is unique. So the whole plan for me, that's kind of my style, is I don't go out and buy a Ben Shirk template or a Josh Hanna template or anything like that. I do buy those, but I'll use elements out of them. I don't necessarily use those and just pop my players in there, because I don't want those players to be looking at their friend in Colorado and go, "Oh, wow, I have that." I want it to be unique. I want it to be something that nobody else has. Okay, so let's see. Let me show you the posters. The boys poster let's see. I have what I call final somewhere. Right here. Oh, well, that's the PSP file. First draft, individual. Third, well, let me show the girls then. I'll get to the boys. Final draft, and here's the JPEG. So I'm going to pull this up with preview and let you take a look. This is what I did for the girls. And every year for the girls, they have a theme. And basically, I'm supposed to come up with something that works for that theme. And sometimes it's kind of hard, I know, for people out and on the go that don't know the school or what anything is, what the theme exactly is. This year, actually, I kind of stole the idea from Richard Sturdivant because he did one for the Rockwell Heath baseball team with letters like this, block letters, and set their players all over it. And I thought, well, that's really cool. I want to do that with the girls. Of course, I wanted to do it in my own way. So his didn't have any kind of a real background. It just kind of had a black or kind of a light color background, I think, with kind of a black floor, and that's about it. So this is actually on the basketball court, and I did hold the rope as their theme. And basically what that means is that if your friend is in trouble, you'll hold the rope to pull them out. Everybody is on the rope, and your weakest link is going to kill your team because then your rope will slip through. So this is kind of what we did. And Kelly, you remember when we were there, actually you were there with the boys. You didn't see the girls.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But what I did with the girls is it's a secret. They're not supposed to know what the theme is. So I had them hold a piece of PVC pipe. And with each one of these poses, I already had put the background together, and I kind of said, I need you to be sitting with your legs crossed. I need you to be sitting, with your legs dangling. I need you to be sitting, in a chair and stuff like that. So each one of these I had already pre-scripted where I wanted them to go. The bad thing is that the coach came up and said, I don't want this girl here. I want her down. I want this girl that's down here up here. So, okay. So this girl that's sitting here is supposed to be sitting up here. And that's why she looks kind of funny. But anyway, this is the girl. Now, I'm not sure what Ubuntu means, but that's what the coach
I'm
told
going
me.
to ask you what that had to do with it.
I don't know what that means. The coach told me.
It's a Linux.
It's what?
It's a flavor of Linux.
Oh. Okay.
I'm sure it's an acronym for something.
Well, that's what I thought, but it's actually not. Let's see
It's a brand name of a flavor of Linux.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I know that word, but I can't remember where I know that word from.
You're right, but that's not what she had in mind.
Oh, really?
Let's see. It's over here in an email.
Doesn't it mean community or something? I believe it came out of Africa. Let me see here.
It means I am because you are. We can't accomplish anything unless everyone does. So that was what she said.
Cool.
So it's not an acronym, but I'm not really sure. I don't know that, that the general public will know what it means. But anyway, that's that. And I can't find the boys' poster is, I can show you one that's the final, but it's not the final JPEG. I want to open that one because it's so big. Poster, let's see. There's different options. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I'll put it out on the page or something, but I just thought I'd show you those. So anyway, the next thing is to come in here and let's add one of the players. So what I'm going to do is I just added this player, so I'm just going to close this. And here's this girl right here. And I'm going to go through the entire extraction and everything, just to kind of show you what I do, because I need to do it anyway. So we're going to select subject, and it does an amazing job of selecting subject here. You can see it looks really good at what it does, but there's always something I need to fix. So like right here, and there's multiple ways to fix it. I just have always done the lasso tool. Whoops, sorry, you know that we do that. I've always used the lasso tool, so I'm going to use a lasso tool right now. And there's this little bit of hair up here that for some reason is not selecting everything, so I'm going to tell it to go ahead and select all of that. And we'll do select and mask in a minute, and it'll fix that. Excuse me. So I'm going to come in here, and you're going to bear with me while I come in here. And I like to use the rotate tool because I do better upper right to lower left in drawing than I do any other way. So the lasso tool, I'm just going to come in here and get this little part right here. And the thing is, you don't really have to be real accurate with this. Although I say that, I'm a little anal about being accurate. So, but you really don't have to be. And this did just an amazing job here. Doesn't always do this well. Okay, now so we have this shoelace here that we need to add, and I'm going to go ahead and add it. You know what? It's not important because the feet are going to be pretty much invisible, but I'm going to just kind of show you how I would do it anyway. So a little bit more. There we go. I'm just going to come in here and draw around it. You could also use the quick selection tool, but I have better luck with just doing this. And I come in here and do that, and then we'll come over here. Let's see, let me take this out while I'm here. We're going to add our own shadows, so this isn't going to matter. Plus the shadows aren't going to really show up anyway. So we may actually not do the shadows, but this actually is pretty quick. So I'll go ahead and do it. And it's better to take a little bit of black than it is to leave the yellow, because the yellow will really pop out. Oops. Grab this real quick. Grab this. And then I'm going to take this away. Like that. If you don't have a steady hand, this may be an issue, and it's becoming more and more of an issue for me. So that's pretty good. Add just a little bit right here. Again, whoops, took it out. Do that all the time too. Again, a little anal about this, but I guess whenever you do 13 of them, which is what I'm doing here, it all adds up, but I still do it. Just because of my personality, I guess. Okay. So, and this is not one of the time-consuming things, by the way. Those are coming. There's a couple of processes that take about 15 minutes each. Whoops. Gosh. Whoa, shoot. There I go again. I want to add this. There. And take this out. So, you know, whether you go through all of this or not, It's a matter of how complete you want the image to be. So you don't necessarily have to do all of this. Oops. Messed up again. It's my steady hand not coming in. There we go. So this looks pretty good here. A little bit here and there. So this will move along here in a minute and it'll slow way down again. So, okay. Now, creating a template, you have to be careful. There's a way in Photoshop to create a template, but I couldn't get it to work for me. It's worked for me in the past, but today I couldn't get it to work for me, so I'm using it a little bit differently. And basically, what you do is you save it as a PSD-T, T as in Tom on the end, and every time you open it, it opens up as an untitled document. And it retains the original stuff in the original template, so you're never really saving over the template. Okay, so here we go. We've got her selected. Now I'm going to do select and mask. And in select and mask, excuse me, you'll notice over here, you'll notice over here, uh-oh, whose is that? Whoa, is that me?
What are you talking about?
Oh, that is me, sorry. Wow. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know how that started. Oof. Okay, back to where we were. Okay, select and mask. You'll notice over here on this in the setup or the settings that I've got feather set at 1.5, contrast at 25%, shift edge at -11. These settings seem to work pretty well for me most of the time, especially when I'm cutting out individuals like this. And you can see how quickly you can do this. And that's without, I don't even know what the new tools are in the new Photoshop, but that's without actually having any of the new tools. So all I'm going to do is use the refine edge tool over here, and I'm just going to go around her hair, and I'm going to let it kind of figure out what it wants to do with that. And typically it will do a pretty good job of softening it and making it look kind of natural. Now, remember, this is going to be against a background, and the background is going to be fairly dark. So even if it has these holes in it, it's probably going to look pretty good. So I'm not going to worry too much about it. Okay, right there. Now, I could come in here and actually add this in because it looks like, and up here, looks like we've got some holes. I think I am going to add that in. And basically, that's this brush over here, and you can just brush in what you want it to keep. Like right in here, I can just say, keep all that. And this around her ear. But I'm not going to go all the way. Maybe a little bit right here. Okay. So now if we look around here too, okay, we've got an edge right here. I'm going to get to that here in just a second. But just kind of look around and make sure there's nothing really bad happening here. Okay, looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and say okay. And it brings me over here with a new layer and a mask. Excuse me. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy this down here, turn this off and turn this back on. And the reason I'm doing this is because this is the link to the XMP file, which has anything that I may have changed in Camera Raw. And I'm going to use this instead of this. So now what I'm going to do is I could go ahead and work with that right now. In fact, I think I will. I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to try using the pucker, I call it the pucker tool, the smudge tool, and see if I can just kind of push it in right there and right there. Works really cool. my new favorite tool for this sort of thing. So I'm going to do this again at a later step, so I'm not going to get anything else. That's kind of rough right there too, and I'll take care of that in a little bit. So we're going to take this, and I'm going to use my move tool, and we're going to move her. You know what, it's not showing here. So what I need to do is open this. And it goes right back there. So what we're going to do is we're going to open this and we're going to move. Oh, I've already done her, so I can just close that. But I'll have visibility to that. So what we'll do then instead is we'll do a Command C to copy it, and then we'll come over here. Normally I drag it over, but when you've got a bunch of them open, it's hard to do that. So we'll just do it like that. It's the same thing, except it just adds it to wherever your cursor is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take her down here, and I have a folder called Player. Inside the Player is where I put the player I'm working on. So this is the player I worked on earlier. So I'm going to take her and this, and I'm going to throw them away. I don't need them anymore. So what I'm going to do here, and this is just strictly for protection. I'm going to take this, I'm going to copy it. I'm going to turn this one on. I'm going to turn this one off. I'm going to take this, I'm going to rasterize it, and then I'm going to apply layer mask. And the reason I'm doing this is I want to preserve this in case I ever need to go back. Just precautionary thing. And it's just one of those things that I always do. And now we have her like this. I want to now convert to a smart object because I want this to be a smart object. I don't want it to be linked to the XMP file. So, and the reason is you're going to see in just a second. Now, what I've set up is to size all these girls to be the same height. What I'm doing is I'm bringing her down here to where her head is at, right at that bar right there, and bring her feet up to where this line is, like right there. So they're all sized like this, okay? And she is off center just a little bit, so I could also move her over a little like that, something like that. So that's not a big deal. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click, and it's going to open up her own individual file. And this is the way Smart Objects works. And now I can work strictly on her. And when I take it back, all that data is maintained in the Smart Object instead of in that file. So it's a good way to keep your big file from getting any bigger. Right now, it's already at over 3 gigabytes. So anyway, this is what I'm going to do. This is where I'm going to work on her. So there are a few things that I do right off the bat. One of them is I'm going to do a desaturation. So I'm going to hue and saturation. I'm going to desaturate to -35 because I like them to be able to be desaturated for what I'm working on. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and see if there are any what I call boo-boos, or blemishes or scratches or whatever. She does have quite a few blemishes, so I'm going to get rid of those because this is going to be a 3-foot by 5-foot banner, and you know, she doesn't want to show off all the blemishes that she had that day. So we're going to come in here. I'm going to add a new blank layer. We're going to go to the healing brush tool, and I'm going to come in here. We're at 300%, so if this looks a little weird, just remember how much we're zoomed in. So I'm going to come in here with the healing brush, and I'm just going to start coming in here and getting rid of some of these things like this. The last person that I did before we went on, she had absolutely no blemishes. So it's rare, you know, when you're doing these high school kids that they don't have at least 1 or 2. So, you know, you have different rules of thought about how much of this you should do. I can guarantee you that these young girls are going to want you to get rid of everything. So the idea here is to sample something nearby so that you're overlaying it with something very close to the same color and texture. Now we had 2 strip banks, one on each side, so they're lit pretty hot on each side, and that's the point. So I've gone in here and actually toned down the images before I brought them in here. Camera raw went in and took the highlights down to negative 100. And I think it gives me close to the look I'm looking for. So this normally is pretty quick, but sometimes, you know, can take a while. I don't do any like frequency separation or anything special with these girls. This is an athletic poster, so it's not a beauty poster, even though some of them like to be, you know, their hair to be perfect and everything. So I did doing posters for HCA, and I wanted the girls to, you know, be like they were on the field or on the court, and no way. They've got to go and get in front of me, and then they have to time out, and some girl will come over there and fix their hair for them and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, okay, that looks pretty good. Now let's look at the rest over here and see if she's got any scratches. Because some of these girls, it looks like they've been in a fight or something. And maybe it's the basketball. She's got a little bit of a boo-boo here, so we'll get rid of that. I don't remove scars or any, hopefully any, you know, birthmarks or anything like that, but things like this I'll get rid of. And that's just me. It's a personal thing that I do that. I don't know what everybody else does. I don't really care. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We've done that. So now, let me label that to remove blemishes. Okay. Now we're going to do some dodging burning. And here's, this will take about 15 minutes here. So if you need to go get a cup of coffee or another glass of wine or whatever, go for it. Now, before I actually do that, I'm going to reduce some shine here.
You know us so well, Bob.
What's that? I know you so
You
well.
know us so well.
I kind of figured as much. She has a little bit of shine here, so I'm going to reduce that shine. And I've kind of showed you in the past how I do that. So this may or not be something new to you, but it's the idea is just to reduce it. If I could just type. There we go, reduce shine. So what I do to reduce shine is I come in here with my brush, a regular brush, and I go to color. Oops, I'm not in the brush. Regular brush. Oh, I'm on mixer brush. Okay. And I actually painted something there, so let's get rid of that. Okay, so normal brush, I'm gonna go down to color. And I'm gonna go to 30%. This seems to work for me. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to sample like right here, close to it, and I'm just going to paint over that just a little bit. And then on her nose right here, right there, just going to paint over that. Sometimes I'll go a couple of times. I think once is enough there. And right here, I'm just going to paint over that a little bit. And some of these are really without much data because they're kind of blown out, and it's going to look more painted there. But remember, we're at 300%, so people aren't really going to notice. Let's see, something like right here. We can try to just tone it down. You don't really want to get rid of it. You just want to tone it down, because shine is natural, especially for some people that have oily skin like me. You're going to have a lot more shine than people that don't have that. Get that. Now I like the shine on her lips, so I'm not really going to affect that, but I'm going to kind of tone that down. And maybe a little bit right here. Okay, so now if we look at the difference, you can see where I kind of toned it down. I kind of messed it up there a little bit, so I'm going to do a mask here. And we're going to get rid of that little bit right there. I'll kind of over in the wrong area. Okay, so now we've got that. Now let's do our dodging and burning. And whenever I do the dodging and burning, you guys have seen me do this with landscapes. All I'm wanting to do is accentuate the highlights and accentuate the shadows. So we're going to start with our our highlights, and I'm going to actually go to 20% here, so that I can really make some of these highlights. And I like to make the highlights in the hair come out. It just kind of helps make the person pop a little bit more. So I'm going to do that first. Yeah, just a little bit right here. Okay, then I'm going to go to shadow or burn, and I'm going to go back down to 10%. I'm going to come back in here, and I'm just going to hit some of those darker areas that are close to those highlights that I just opened up a little bit. So I just want the contrast between those two is going to make it a little bit more, add a little more depth, and that's the whole point here. That's the whole point of dodging and burning. At least in my book, it is. I know a lot of people will, and rightly so, will use dodging and burning to actually tone down areas that are too bright or bring out areas that are too dark. I don't really do that. Probably should, but my purpose for this is to just bring out depth, and you can do that by shaping the face as well. And what I typically do, especially for these girls, all I really do is, I do more on boys than I do on girls, but I want to lighten their eyes a little bit. So I just kind of come in here like that, lighten those eyes, because I want to make sure that they have really bright eyes. And then you already have a pretty good highlight right there, so I'm not going to make it any more. A little bit of a highlight right there, a little on her chin. I'm not going to do any more of those. I am going to add a little bit down here on her neck, right here, right there, and then I'm going to go to burn, and I'm going to bring this out. What I'm trying to do with on the skin down here, and you'll see it more in the arms and the legs, is really bring out the features. That's what sports stuff is all about, really, in my opinion, anyway. So we'll do a little bit here on the forehead, a little bit right here across the bridge of the nose, a little bit right here. This is just kind of helping to shape. There's a little bit right here. Okay, that's about all I'm going to do. Sometimes I'll do the ears. Her ears are covered up, so I'm not going to touch any more on her face. Now, actually, I'm going to do the lips a little bit. She's got a little bit of some shine right here, so I'm going to come in here, and we're going to add a little bit to make those lips a little more glisten a little bit. And right in here, just to kind of make that really pop a little bit. Now, another thing I can do is you notice in the nose here, I can also bring in a little bit of highlight in here. Bring that up. Let's go back to burn now. And burn right here to make this lips a little bit more depth. You may not be able to see much here, but when it's all over, you'll be able to see a big change. Okay, now the arms and the legs is where it really happens. Go back to dodge here. And all I'm trying to do is, you notice here the way that she's lit. You've got highlights along here. You got some shadows over here. You've got a little bit of a shadow here. You've got a shadow, a highlight, highlight. And over here, a highlight, and you've got shadows in here. So all I'm going to do is really make those come out. Excuse me. So we're going to start right here. Come in here like this. And then I'm going to come in here. I'm going to make this elbow come out like this, a little bit right there. And all this right here, it's lit up a little bit. It's just the natural look of the arm. You know, you're just trying to make it really pop. So I'm going to come over here and burn. I'm going to burn down this side a little bit. Just a little bit, because there's not much there. Then I'm going to add a little bit right here, a little bit here, a little bit right there, a bit here, more there. Just a little thing there. So it's really making it come out. Now there's one thing I haven't talked about, and it's this shadow right here. One thing I did, and it was a lesson for me, was that I've had a little bit of trouble with my lights lighting their legs well enough. So I added a light on the floor in front of them. And you can see what that does. Anytime they cover up that light, they're going to get a big shadow. So that's a lesson learned. And it won't happen again because I have to go in there and fix that. In fact, we'll do that right here in just a second. I'll show you how I do that. Okay, so a little bit more right in here, right there. Okay. Now, you may think, well, it just makes our arm look dirty. And it may, but it's the gritty look that we're going after, and it will actually look a lot more polished here in a little bit. Okay. I do spend a lot of time on the fingers and the hands as well. She's got her hand hidden here, so we don't have much of a hand to do on this side or the other side. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do on that hand and arm. Let's go do this arm, and it's the exact same thing. So we've got the dodge here. We've got light coming in on this side. We're just going to accentuate that a little bit, right down here. And you've got a little bit right here, a little bit here. You've got it comes around like this, okay. And then you a little right there, a little in here. The guys usually have a big muscle right there that they really want me to show, so I usually go in there and, give them a little bit. So you come in here like this. And again, it's just taking what's there and making it come out. A little bit right here, yes. And this all makes sense. One of the time-consuming things right here. Okay, let's go fix that shadow right quick. And I can do that as long as I stay below the dodge and burn. I can do that, and it's, oops. I didn't need to do that, whatever it was. Oh, okay. So we can add this, we're going to say reduce or remove. I call it reduce because I'm not sure I'm removing the shadow. Okay, so I do it pretty easily, but I don't know that it's going to work every time, so hopefully it'll work again. All I'm going to do is just clone over it. And it works pretty simply if I go at 30%, which is what I have there. So it's a soft, or a fairly, let's see, what kind of brush I have. Yeah, I want it to be about, about 60% hardness, I guess. Because if I have it really soft, it's going to bleed over onto her hand there. And I don't want that. So we're going to just kind of start right here and come down in here at 30%. And it's still getting on her hand there, but I'll go ahead and just kind of do something like that. And again, we're in here at 400%. So it doesn't have to be perfect. Just enough to where it's not noticeable, because nobody is really going to pay any attention to it unless it's really noticeable. So I'm going to take this right here and just kind of get rid of that. Do the same thing here. That go away, and then we'll come in here and do the black part. So not too hard. Usually the thing that's the hardest is really just knowing what to do. And I really didn't know this would work until I tried it today. And it actually seems to work pretty good. It's not getting all of the texture that you would expect or hope, but you don't really care because, again, we're at 400%. Nobody's going to really notice. They will notice more if the shadow's there than they will about how good this is. So this down and this. And this is much better than the debate, right?
There's a debate.
Definitely. Although it appears our TV's not, the system's not working. So my wife's trying to get that working. So she's going to miss it anyway.
Well, I know that this can be boring, just watching me sit here and do this. But hopefully it just kind of gives you an idea of what's involved in all this. It actually is very satisfying when you're all done. And, you know, especially if you go to some of the games and you're sitting over there in the stands and you hear people talking about their cool banners, it really gives you a good feel. What you don't want to hear is somebody talk about how can they get those horrible banners off of there. So
It's probably something had I seen this as a banner with the shadows there, would not have thought about. But seeing you eliminate them, it does show. It's like, yeah, it's better because you don't see that, you know.
yeah, when I did it, I thought, I'll give it a shot. If it works, that's great. If not, it's not that big a deal. But it seems to work pretty good. So I don't have a problem with spending an extra, whatever, 10 minutes or whatever I'm doing here to take care of
So for
this.
some of us, it would be 10 hours.
Well, again, you know, this is just knowing what to do and trying. I mean, that's the way it is with any of this stuff. Just know, you know, okay, I know what I want to do. I know I can do things like, you know, that by doing this. Let's see how it works. Now this over here is going to be a little tricky because it goes up into here. So we don't want to make it obvious. So come over here and just need to kind of smooth it out, I think. Let's see. See if we can do that without it looking too obvious. I think we're just going to call that done. If you're a pixel peeper, you'll find this. But when you look at it like this, you're not going to know anything. Right? Okay, so now let's do the legs. And again, the way this was lit, you had two edge lights on the sides, but they only went down to about just below the waist, or maybe even not that far. So these legs down, the legs down here are not lit on the side like the arms are, but they're lit in the middle from the front light. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to come in here, brush again. So I can switch here, back up here to dodge, and at 10%. And we're going to come in here, and this is where it's going to pop a little bit, I think. We're going to come in here and just add a little bit to that front light, because you're not really seeing much of a shadow from the side. We want to make that visible. So we're going to come in here, and on the knees, you've got all these little pockets of white areas down here. So we're going to make those kind of come out too. And then we're going to come in here, and on the front shin here, we got this. And you always have a little bit of a shadow right there that you can't really see on her. But we're going to add that in just a second. So then we're going to come over here and do the same thing to this side. Really make it come out so it looks like she was lit real well there. So this is a good way that if your lights, you didn't quite get the lights right, you can make it work. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We'll come in here, a little bit more shine right here, a little bit over here. Okay, and then we'll come in here and burn. You can burn the sides down a little bit, so that it looks like the light is hitting there. Bring this down, this, right in here. Okay, all around that knee right there. Here. Sometimes on these kids, you can really see the places that you need to work on, and other times you have to look for them. I mean, you just have to know how the body is and kind of make it happen. Like her, it's kind of hard to see some of this, but I think you can see that it looks like now that she was really well lit in front. So that's my lack of lighting that we're fixing right now. Whoops. Okay. These little shadow areas here. Right here. And then on the side, and then we've got this little recess area right here. Like that. Okay. Now, typically, you're really supposed to do the shoes, but I'm not going to do the shoes because we're not going to see the shoes. Okay. Now we're going to do the clothes. So that's why this takes a while. I'm going to come in here, and again, the point of this is to bring out those highlights and make the shadows deeper around the highlights. I was doing this earlier, and my wife said, "What are you doing?" And I said, I'm making this so that the wrinkles will show up a lot more." She goes, "Why?" It's because that's the look we want. And all of these are steps that I learned in Richard Sturdivant's class. So, Susan, if you're on, this is what you're going to learn. Actually, he's probably changed how he does it now.
What class was that?
Richard Sturdivant at Texas School.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sure that, you know, if you want to pay the money, you don't have to go to Texas School. You can have him teach you individually.
Okay.
But believe me, that's not cheap. Okay, so now I'm going to go and burn. So this is, you know, I learned this in his class, and I've just done it so many times. Doesn't mean that it's the only way, and there's not better ways to do it or anything. It's just that this is the way I do it because it's the way I learned from him. And I don't do everything the same way he did. You know, there's different techniques, and the thing is, you have to understand the process. And once you understand the process, then you can use your own techniques to make it work. And that's what he was really pushing in the class was, it's not a recipe. It's process. Learn the process and you'll be good. And because everybody, including me, were asking, what setting did you put on that? What did you do? You know, trying to get him to tell us the exact settings. And he said it's going to be different for every image that you're working on. Okay, this is actually moving along now. Okay, we'll do the shorts and then we'll be done. With this part. You can imagine doing this. Whenever I took his class, I went back. At the time I was doing posters for Heritage Christian Academy, and they are a believer in everybody being involved. And so their teams had like 30 people on them. So you can imagine doing a poster and having to do this for 30 different kids for the team. And then anything else that you had to do for them. So it's, you know, it's not just for banners. I do this for everything I do for the athletics. And it's kind of exciting. I just ordered yesterday the posters, and I got an email a while ago that they have shipped. So they're supposed to be back to me by Saturday. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm using a different vendor this time because the vendor I normally use is closed due to COVID. And I'm excited and afraid because I don't know that they're going to give me the quality that I've been getting. So anyway, I guess Susan's not on. Are any of you guys going to Caddo in a few weeks, a couple weeks? No?
No, too afraid of COVID.
Oh,
No, I'm not going.
As Robin likes to say, too people-y.
two people.
Yes,
Okay.
it's way more people-y than yeah.
Well, this was an interesting thing too with shooting these kids because we discussed it with the coach, or I discussed it with the coach, and they were going to have disinfectant there. Everybody's wearing a mask and wipe down the chairs and everything that the kids sat on. And it was going to be up to them to do that. And the day, Kelly, you probably, I don't know if you remember this, but the day that we started with the boys, they're just over there grabbing the chair and going to sit down and have their picture
Yeah.
made. This is for the teams. And I went to the coach and I said, Coach, we're supposed to be wiping this stuff down and it's not happening. And I said, it doesn't really matter to me. It's your call as to what you want to do. And the reason it doesn't matter to me is because I'm not touching them or anything. So it didn't affect me. So I said, it's your call. It's the school's requirements, not mine. And he said, oh, it's not really a requirement. So I said, okay. That's pretty bad. So anyway, it turned out that we all wore masks. We wore the mask the entire time we were there. And the kids wore a mask except when they were getting a picture made. But nobody, we had canisters of what do you call it, wipes, sanitizing wipes and everything, but nobody touched them. I brought extras just in case, just in case we needed them, but nobody used them. And I did a senior shoot a couple weeks ago too, and we were out and about without the mask. Now we weren't with anybody else, and these were people that I know, friends of ours, and it wasn't too bad. We were over in Rockwall, downtown. Royce City, downtown Royce City, and I hardly saw anybody with masks on. I'm not suggesting that's a good thing. I'm just saying that's kind of what it was. And that shoot was a lot of fun.
I usually don't care if people aren't wearing masks. They just need to stay away from me.
Yeah, exactly. I understand.
And I've asked people that get up down at the lake, say, hey, give me a little room here. We don't need to get each other sick.
Yeah,
Exactly.
if I'm out doing really, like, I hesitate to use the term power walking in my case, but, where I'm just out walking, I take my cane. It does make a good, back off. A statement. I can point it at you and I can slap you with it. So.
Okay, so here we've done the dodging and burning, and here's before and here's the after. So you can see, especially on the arms and the legs, big change, big difference. So, and that's really that in the clothes is where we wanted it. And the next thing is going to be, we're going to do a merge stamp layer, and I'm going to turn everything else off. And we're going to call this shadows and highlights. And this was also Richard Sturdivant suggestion. Image, adjustments, shadows, highlights. Now, if you remember when we first started talking about Photoshop, I said you never want to go over here and use any of these things because they're global. Well, everything above shadows, highlights, there is a adjustment layer equivalent, but anything shadows, highlights all the way down here, there's not an equivalent. And shadows, highlights is a pretty cool little interface. And what it does is it allows you to work specifically with the shadows using different tones and radius, and same with highlights and color, and then your midtones, you can also affect those. And what I've done is I've gone in here and I've set up what I like, and I've loaded it, I've saved it, and now I can go out there and load it. And I did one for the first girl who's African American, and then I tried to use it on the second girl who was white, and it didn't work. So I did a second one. So I've got two of them out here. So we're going to use number 2. And yeah.
When you made that layer copy, shadows and highlights copy,
Yeah.
Well, I guess I blinked and missed it. How did you do that? Is that a combination of all of those adjustment layers, or?
Yes, that's a combination.
How did you do that? I know
It's
how
just
I do it, but
it's a merge stamp layer where you do Command, Option, Shift E, or Control,
Okay.
Alt, Shift E.
okay. Oh, okay. I would have
Got
done Control J and then merge
Yeah.
or something. Okay, thanks. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. There are multiple ways you can do that same thing. That's the shortcut. Okay. So now I've got this. I'm going to do the next thing I'm going to do is sharpen it. So I'm going to copy this, and we're going to call it high pass sharpen. Oops, I'm typing. Okay, and we're going to desaturate, and the shortcut for that is Command Shift U or Control Shift U, and then I'm going to come in here to filter other high pass, and I like 7 for this one. You just kind of look at it and see how much sharpness there is there, and you can click here and it will show up in the window. So if I click here, you can see in the window that's going to be a lot of sharpening. I usually sharpen until it starts to turn into colorized kind of deal. Do that, or does something like that. So I don't want to go too far, so we're going to do 7. Okay, and then I'm going to change that soft light. And now we have it real sharp, but I don't like it on the skin that much, so I'm going to come in here and take 50% off. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to, this is the way I do it. I'm sure that other people do it differently, but I'm going to use my brush tool, and I'm going to change it to 50%. I'm going to click the backslash key to turn on the quick mask so that I can see where I'm actually painting. So I'm going to, whoops. And if you ever let up, the next time you push down, you're going to be adding to it. So if I want to keep it at 50%, I have to paint the entire thing without letting up. So that's one reason I definitely wanted to have the quick mask on. So I'm going to go here, and I don't care if I get a little bit of the hair. It's not a big deal. I don't care if we get the teeth. I don't want to get the eyes because I want the eyes to be really sharp. So I'm just going to go like that and just kind of paint around here, make sure I get everything. And if I get the eye, that's okay. I can come back and take it out. So I'll come down here and just kind of go like this. Okay, make sure that I've got it all and the eyes are clean. So now I can let up. Okay, so now I come over here and I'm going to do the same thing to the arms and hands. And in this case, I could probably go over here and then let up and then do the other arm. So that's what I'm going to try to do, because I tend to my fingers tend to slip down on the pencil, and before I know it, I'm down on top of my tablet with my hand and have to let up. So, and if I do get it on the shirt or something, I can go back and paint it out. It's not that big a deal. Whoops. Okay, now I got it on the other arm, so I'm going to want to either continue or paint it off and then do it separately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let up. I'm going to go 100%, turn it around to paint it off. I'm going to take it off. The reason I'm doing that is because I want to do it all at one time so that I have exactly 50%. So now I go back and go back to 50% and come in here like this. So I'm just taking the sharpness off of her skin so that it's not so rough. For a guy, I may or may not do that, but for girls, I definitely don't want that high-fat sharpening to be totally on their skin. Okay, so now we've got that. Now let's go down to the legs. Get this a little smaller. There we go. And I'm going to do one leg at a time. And it's okay if you go outside the lines because that's transparency. It's nothing. Okay. I'll make it a little bigger. All right. Now that does that. So now if I hit the backslash key again, the mask goes away and I have 50% off the skin, but everything else is really sharp. Okay, so then I do, the next thing I do is another merge stamp layer. I'm going to turn these two back off. I'm going to call this oil paint. Okay, I'm going to copy it, duplicate it to have a second one. And on that one, I'm going to do select, filter, stylize oil paint. It's going to be stylization 1.4, cleanliness 0.8. These are always, this is again Richard Sturdivant's definitions, 0.8 and 10.0 for the bristle. And I hit OK. And now you really can't see much difference until you zoom in. And she kind of looks like she's been painted. Now, this actually is not as strong as it has been. So I'm going to take it off to down to 60%. Actually, let's make it 70%. Oops, 7, oh, not 7. Okay, now maybe that's why I can see it. 50%. Okay, anyway, you kind of look at, you don't want it to look too weird with paint. So I took it down. You just want it to look very soft. And that's what this is for, is to give it that really soft look. Even though she's sharp, even though we've got these highlights and shadows, real dense in here, her skin looks a lot softer. Now, what we could do too is whiten her teeth a little bit. They're not too bad, so I may not do that. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring her eyes back. So that's why I actually have this second layer here, so that whenever I bring her eyes back, it uses that layer below to show them. So there's her eyes coming back nice and sharp. And if she has jewelry, which she has some jewelry there, and a little bit over here, you can bring the jewelry back. I usually try to do that, make it really pop. She's going to watch, but I'm not going to do the band. Okay, now what I'm going to do is take that and merge it down. So now you have one layer called oil paint. So I went through that kind of fast, but we're down to our last 40 minutes. So I wanted to go ahead and continue moving along. Whenever you are doing effects on things like this, a lot of times you get edges around. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to look for any edges that need to be removed. And typically there are some, a little bit right here, but not as much as there normally are. And that's probably because I got rid of them earlier. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and make a selection by clicking here and then creating a mask. And then again, we're going to come over here with our smudge tool. On my cursor. And we're just going to come over here and try to straighten this out a little bit. It's a little bit harsh right there, a little ruggedy edge. So I may the best way to handle that is with a brush. So I'm going to rotate. I'm going to do a brush here. And let's see, what's the softness on this? It's 0. We don't want it at 0, so we want it about 65%, something like that. So that it just kind of take the edge off. To kind of smooth that out a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now let's see if there's anything else that needs to be. Looks like we have a little bit right there, so I'm going to go back to my smudge tool. I'm just going to push that down a little bit. There we go. Let's see, a little bit right here, all the way up. For some reason, the right side usually has something, and the left side is usually pretty clean. I have no idea why that's the case. And I found that to be true most of the time that I've been working on this stuff this last few weeks. Okay, I think that's pretty much got it. So now what we're going to do, we're on the home stretch here. We have one more time consuming task to do though. So we're going to save this, Command S, and now I'm going to close it with Command W. And what this does, since this is in a smart object, it's going to bring back all this data into the main file over here. And here she is with all of that stuff we just did. So what I'm going to do now is, this is it sounds like a broken record, but it's another Richard Sturman thing. The edges need to blend with the background. And to make them blend with the background, there's a thing that he calls edges. And it's just a name. So what we're going to do, let's see, do I have any extra stuff here? No, I'm just going to get rid of it. What edges does is it smooths out the edges of the individual and blends it with the background. And the way that we are going to do that is with mixer brush. And so I'm going to take this and throw it away and create a new one. That's for the last one. We'll call it edges. And this will take about 10 minutes or so. Oops. Edges. Here we go. And then we're almost done for sure. But we're going to do this. It's going to seem like I'm not doing anything, but I promise you I am. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go to our mixer brush. And the mixer brush with these settings. These are, again, Richard defined settings. And the brush that we're using is in the default brushes, and it's number 59, spatter brush 59. And it works pretty good, and you want it to be pretty small. So we're going to be zoomed in here, like we're at 600%. So we're going to come in here, and what you do is you just kind of smudge around, but you have to be really careful. And what we're doing is you're painting part of this and part of this together to get a little smudge there. And you have to go with the line. If you don't, you're going to wind up pushing this color on this color or this color over here. So you have to go pretty straight, and you have to be careful about what you're painting over, like this line right here. You want to be careful that you don't smudge that line away. So you just kind of skip over it and keep going. And the idea is to make this a smudge to where it blends the background. Now, others don't use the mixer brush. Matt Hernandez, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a compositor. I think he's in Tennessee or somewhere like that, Kentucky maybe. He uses the blur tool. And you can use the blur tool. You can also use the smudge tool. And it doesn't really matter as long as you are softening these edges. Okay, let me get the other side of the hair. And if it looks really weird now, I'm zoomed in at 600%, so just remember that. Now, one thing about a 5-foot banner is that people will be able to zoom in real far. So you want to make sure that you don't have any really glaring mistakes because they will see it. Okay. And the idea is to do this all the way around. Now, normally I will come in here when you have long flowing hair. Her hair is not that long, but I like to come in here and just add a few streaks like this because it adds a little bit to the painterly look. At least in my opinion it does. And this is not a Richard Sturdivant suggestion, it's just something that I do on occasion. So, there we go. And now we're just going to go around. And this is going to take a little bit of time. So you can imagine if I'm doing a poster with 30 kids on here and I have to go around 30 kids like this. Look how bumpy she is here. Hopefully this will smooth it all out. So I thought I just fixed that. So yeah, when I first did this for Richard, after Richard's class, I did a poster for Heritage Christian Academy, and of course they had like 25 kids or something in it, and it took me like 2 hours just to do this one thing, and a few breaks because this really will test your hand strength. I may come in here and do something about that. That looks kind of weird. Let's go ahead and do this though. So this is why I've been so busy. And trying to pay attention to the print competition. Missed out really. Didn't really get to see much of it, but that's okay. I got an email telling me how mine did. Okay. Let's do this. And after we're done with this, we'll be done. We'll be finished with the whole thing in about 5 minutes. Unless I go back and try to smooth out that arm, which I probably will. Richard had another step before this, which was to handle any kind of edges or color halos around the edges, which is what I just fixed over there when I did the mask after the oil paint. He also didn't do the smart objects like I'm doing. I just think that it makes sense to do it that way because you're separating all that and you get to handle it all on its own. Plus, if you have a template like this is, it helps you to isolate all that stuff. So, to each his own. Typically, you don't want to take long strokes like this, but if you're pretty good at staying on line, I see right there I kind of went off and it smudged it out here, so I'm going to go back up there and get that. So I was going to do an individual poster, but I just didn't think we could get through it because you got to create the background, cut the kid out, put him on there, blend him in. But it's pretty much the same as this. It's just on different It's on a piece, I mean, it's on print paper instead of on banner. Now, I'm not going to worry too much about in here, again, because the feet are not really going to show up. I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to worry if I smear it too much. Yeah, I'm doing a pretty sloppy job here. So who's gonna go out and shoot and do a banner next week?
I doubt it will be me.
I wouldn't want to compete.
Well, the my entry that went to loan was a composite. All right, no, I'm not through. Still got this side to do. So I'm going to flip it around and do this side. So this and dodging and burning are the two big things that just take forever to do. And you just, if you don't do them, then it's not going to be, I mean, you can still have a pretty good image, no doubt about it. I just think that this is the stuff that really makes it pop. One of the telltale signs of a composite is whenever you can tell the edges are sharp, doesn't blend, that sort of thing. So this is one of those things that you do.
Is that you with the background noise? You're the only other one not unmuted.
No.
It's probably me, actually. Is it better? Was it better?
Yeah, it sounded like a TV or something in the background.
Yeah, Claudia's watching the damn TV. The
Okay.
headache. I'm sitting here with it. Sorry.
Oh. Okay. Now let's take a look. And if I turn off everything else, let's see. Turn off everything else. You can see what I've done. I just missed a little bit around one of the feet, which I don't care, but I also missed this edge over here. So I'll just go there and do that. Not that it would be a telltale sign or anything, just to be complete. Okay, so I do want to do something about this arm. This is not too good. So I'm going to actually add another layer, and I'm going to call it smooth arm. And we're going to do some cloning. Back over here. Some cloning. So we're going to come in here with a small brush. And we're just going to come in and paint, come over these edges here. Now I've got lines here, so I'm going to be kind of careful. Let's see.
What are you cloning from, Bob?
cloning from here over those edges. So I'm cloning from the wall out here.
Yeah, but you're on a layer, a blank layer.
But I'm doing current and below.
Oh.
So up here.
Okay, lesson learned.
That's okay. That's okay. It's that's you have to watch out for this. Sometimes I'll be alone here and man, it's not working. What's going on? And I'll find out. You know, I go. You know, I think I've told you at one of our meetings that I go through a series. Okay, what could it be? Could it be this? Could it be that? Could it be something else? Whoops, that
Uh-oh.
didn't work.
No, I've seen that. I've not used it, and now, you know, like I told you once, every time I watch you, I pick up something.
Well, that makes me feel good. Okay, so now I can't mess that up too. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I think we're going to be okay. It's looking better. It's right here. I have to do a much smaller brush. Okay, I think that's going to work okay. So back around here. Again, we're zoomed in at 300% here anyway. So now we're ready to move on. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to do another merge stamp here. So that's Command Option Shift E or Control Alt Shift E, and it consolidates everything. And I'm going to use a Topaz Impression plugin called Soft Pencil 1. So I'm going to make this a smart object in case I change my mind. Put smart object. And actually, it's not because I saved my mind, it's changed my mind, it's because then I can copy it from the one before. So I take this and I just move it down. And it's going to go over to the Topaz Impression. It's going to grab the, I think it's called pastel, soft pastel, brings it over here. And that looks pretty cool, don't you think? So what I'm going to do is change this to soft light. And then I'm going to bring it down to 50%. And it gives it a little bit of a blended look. So if you do it without it, it's like this. This blends it together with a little bit more contrast. So I kind of like it. So now I'm going to take this one and throw it away. And I have a little bit of front smoke. I'm going to turn on. I have a little bit more front smoke. And I have this. So what I'm going to do now is take this. Now these poses were their idea. They just wanted, and they also want full body. So, you know, typically most, I guess most schools or most photographers or whoever's doing the composites or banners or whatever will do a half body so that you can see a lot more of their face. These girls have always wanted full body. I always ask if you're going to smile or not smile, and I always ask if they want me to pose them, or they decided that they want to do their posing and want to smile, and so on. So anyway, just thought I'd mention that. So now I need to change the letters here. Again, that is a smart object. Is there a comment?
Yeah, I had a question, Bob, and if it's none of my
Right.
business, you tell me it's none of my business.
Oh, yeah?
Can you make this process? Can you make this work outside of team sports?
Sure.
Economically or financially? I mean, the labor is so intensive that.
Well, see, that's the thing. Most people that do volume sports, I think I mentioned this in the beginning, but most people that do volume sports will go out and buy a Ben shirt template, or they'll go to 3D Creative and get a template, and then I'll go take a picture, and they won't go through all the pain that I went through on top of the individual. They'll just take their picture and put them in the template, and they're done. And so
trying to drive the labor down, or
well, there's a couple of reasons. One is that they're probably doing like a lot of leagues, and each one of the leagues probably has like 5 teams, and they probably have in those 5 teams, and they have 10 players or 15 players. You're talking about hundreds of kids.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so for me, I'm doing it this way. This is my style. And if I continue to add more teams, I'm not sure that I can do it on my own. Right now, it's
Yeah.
stretching me to the limit. And I got approached a couple of days ago about doing swimming and diving and water polo. So if I, to answer your question, you can streamline this real easily. It's like I mentioned a while ago. If you don't do these couple of things, it's probably not going to be real noticeable by a lot of people, but it's not going to have the same impact, at least in my opinion, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So for cost effectiveness, you probably don't do it. For artistic part of it, which is what I'm do it.
Yeah.
I want to do it.
Because I've done a couple of posters with bands and then put them over in one case I put them over the UFO that's out by Roy City. Another case I put them on stairs in front of the Buddha temple out there. But the shoot itself was $150, and then I charged them $250 for the Photoshop work. And
right,
when I got to the end of it, I'm like, holy shit! I did all that for like $8 an hour.
Well, these
don't do that. Don't do that again, Ron. That's stupid.
These banners are $75 a piece. That's what I charge, and they cost me $22.50, I think, and $10 for shipping, no matter how many there are. So there's going to be 13 times 22, and I'm going to get, so I get $50, $52 or something out of them.
So you need 10 to 20 people signing up, right?
Yeah, and there's 13 of these girls that do that.
To make it worth it, yeah.
Yeah, and once I get the background, the rest of it takes about an hour and a half to do. I'm going slower tonight for you guys, but not much slower.
Yeah.
So the posters are different. Actually the girls pay for these. The girls' parents pay for these banners. The school doesn't have anything to do with it, but they're compelled to do it. So all of the varsity girls have to have a banner. So basically, if you can't afford one, then the other girls' moms help you out or something.
Okay.
But for the posters, the Booster Club pays for the posters and team and individual, and those are $1,200 for the girls and $1,200 for the guys, and it cost me about $200 for each one of them for a poster. So that's $400 for posters to get it printed. But then I have to put it together and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
but you're going into it ensuring you have a certain number. Yep. Of folks getting it. Yeah. Can't get my head around it with bands on how to. Well, I just don't think it scales that low, small.
Yeah.
I guess.
So it would be one banner for each band member.
It really posters. They want the posters to.
Okay.
They do two things with it. One, some of them will just sell them, right? That would be the ideal model. They would sell them, but they make more money from shirts and people buy shirts, that kind of stuff. And of course, they want to put them on. If they play downtown Deep Ellum, they get stolen all the time, but they'll go down and hang up 15 or 20 of them, around posts. But anyway.
Okay.
It's very cool. It's very unique because you just don't. Despite us being in the print-on-demand society, you just don't see as much print things as you would think.
Right.
Out and about.
Yeah, and it's getting where a lot of them really expect to have digital, and it's just, you don't know what to say some of the time.
Well, the music's easy, right? I just, it's hey, can you come shoot us? Yeah, it's $150. I come shoot you, And
right.
It's, and I can grind through the pictures real quick in Lightroom, and I'm not getting mad at myself for spending a bunch of time on the photographs when I'd rather be shooting something that's fun and
right.
a lot less work.
Okay, this is the other smart object, which has the words, and you just saw me change this from senior to junior. If I spell that right, J-U-N-I-O-R, yeah. Okay, and there's nothing worse than misspelling their name or getting the name wrong. You know, because there's 2250 down the drain. You have to go order a new one, which I've done that once, I think. Excuse me. And you notice here, I got this little starburst. This is one that I made. And basically all it is just a bunch of little white gradated lines that are turned into a little starburst. And it really works well for this kind of a lettering and this kind of coloring on the letter. You'll see it whenever I go back over here. So you see the little starburst, and I can move that wherever I want it. I actually forgot it on the last one, so I may need to go in there and see where it is and put it in somewhere that really looks nice. So anyway, this is the final, and that's it. The hardest part of the whole thing is getting started, and I actually had the background all done, you know, a couple weeks ago and ready to go. And today when I opened it up, I looked at it and I go, ugh, I don't really want that. It was all green, had some kind of green tint to it. So it really does make sense sometimes to walk away and then come back and look at it again. I hadn't done that. I put it together and I decided I was done, and I went on and I was gonna, you know, wait until the time was right to start putting the banners together. And then I opened it up this morning and I go, whoa. So I spent about, I don't know, hour and a half this morning making a lot of changes to it. And it was a lot darker and it was a lot grittier, and the girls standing there with a big smile on their face didn't make sense with a really dark background. It's all gritty because, excuse me, because of the mood. So you want something that's a little bit livelier when they have a big smile on their face, which is not what I was expecting. I expect them to have a no smile, but then they decided this year they're going to smile. So I had to go in and make some changes. But this is their court, and that was something I really wanted to do. It's their court. I said that in the beginning, but it is, and the background is just changed. I just made some changes to it to put their R up over here and the yellow jacket and the JFND across the back. I hadn't put JFND on there before, and I thought that was kind of important to do. So I did that, even though you can't see it really well. But I usually do put the rock and R up there and the yellow jacket somewhere. And I used displacement maps to put those in. I don't know if you know what displacement maps are, but basically those are ways to make whatever you're adding take on the texture or the look of whatever you're adding it to. And that's why they look a little bit rugged around the edges, because they're trying to bleed into those little slits that are in the wall there. So that's why they look that way. And the JFND the same way. Added the basketballs today. That was something that I didn't have in there before. So anyway, any questions? A long process for something that really should only take about an hour and a half.
Got one thing, Bob.
Sure.
Her hair that falls behind her shoulders. Since this is going to be a 5-foot tall banner and it's basically zoomed way in, when you did the select object, come on up. It cut off her hair back there, and
up here.
The hair that's behind her shoulders. So her hair in front that falls on her front is way longer than that behind, and that's not how the original picture was.
Oh.
I think I would bring some hair down.
Okay. Okay.
My suggestion.
That's fine. I didn't notice that. I'll pay more attention next time, and I know that girls will pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Guys don't care, but girls will pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll watch out for that, because I'm looking to see if it looks realistic, and I go, yeah, she's got hair. It's not hard edges, and it looks okay. I know that over here it looks kind of funny, like it's falling off right there, like this is cut off a little bit, and this right here is a little cut off right there. So maybe I should have. I could have also come in here and just cut off all of that right there, And that wouldn't have looked as good because you got all this right here, but I could have pushed it with liquify and pushed it over there or something like that, or pushed this down with liquify. So there's lots of different options you could do. Selecting mask sometimes isn't your final answer. And whenever when I had the option over there in the smart object with the mask, I could have colored that in a little bit more to bring in that look of more hair. Even if it was some of the background, it would have looked like hair before we
Yeah,
done
I'm
it.
curious to see the original, because to me, it almost looks like she's maybe had layers of hair that are growing out. So that's why you got a little bit of a little shorter hair with a little longer hair going on there.
Whoops, wrong one.
Hey.
Here's the original. You can see right here where selected mask didn't. Let me turn this off.
Okay.
So there's the original, and she does have kind of
Yeah.
a hole right there.
Yeah, Robin's right. It did kind of cut off some of the length of the hair.
So, if you look in here, there's a hole right there. So it's you can see the back. So that's kind of what it's showing here, except it's not giving me as much. So yeah, and over here, kind of the same thing. You just have to kind of decide, does it make sense? Because it's going to be on a background that is going to cover for a lot of it. Let's come back over here. Well, it's kind of a light background, so you don't, over here might be okay, but over here, yeah, there should be more hair right there. But, the answer to that is just come up here and copy this and push it down a little bit, and there you got some hair.
Yeah.
Right? So I may go do that. Thanks for the advice.
Yeah, that was probably a girl thing.
Certainly not a boy thing.
She leans to her left,
Yeah.
and but that's probably you see what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
She's her head is a good 2 inches at least left of her.
Yeah, this is the center line right here.
Yeah, but that's her.
Right.
I probably wouldn't do anything about that unless you said, straighten me up.
You could straighten that up because
Yeah.
you're not seeing the feet. So in the original, the first one I did, I added a shadow down here and everything. I did all this stuff, and then I decided to add some of this other stuff, and you can't even see the shadows I made. So I don't even do that anymore. But with her, you could do that. Now I can't do it now because I did those edges. Those edges around her. Well, I could turn the edges too, I guess. I could turn her in the edges and then redo the painting, and she would straighten up. I could certainly do that.
So Bob, what's the application? Are they hanging these up during homecoming or?
No, these go up behind the varsity bench at every home game.
Okay.
So may not be anybody there to see them this year, but
no, I got it. Yeah.
But they eventually take them home.
Yes, they buy them, so they eventually take them home. So.
On her waistband, do you usually, it seems like a white spot that keeps where my eye keeps going. Do you, maybe that's light or something?
I'm not sure what that is, but
down, or no?
that would be, you're talking about a lot of little things that parents are not going to care about.
Oh, okay.
Kids are not. If this were for print competition, you're absolutely right. I would make sure that was gone. But I've got 13 of these to do, and I've got just a couple of days to do them, so I'm not paying attention to a lot of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Good point though. What else? Anything? Nothing.
Oh no, Waxahachie needs to hire you.
I wanted to go through a poster from start to finish, but I just knew we weren't going to, we wouldn't never have had time to do that, because you're talking about like I said in the beginning, I'm a little different. I'm not like a Richard Sturd, but I'm a long way from that, by the way, which I admit that from the start. I don't sit down and just start creating and it's done. I have to try this and try that and see if it works, and start over and come back 2 hours later and look at it and things like that.
Right.
And so there's no way I could have done a poster from start to finish in 2 hours for you guys. But I knew I could do this because it's the same process I've done for 5 years now. And once the background is ready to go, then it's just hour and a half of getting each one of the girls in there. And then I need to get these ordered, so I wanted to be sure and do these tonight. So anyway, all right. If there's not any more questions, I guess we're done.
Thanks, Bob.
Appreciate it,
You
Bob.
bet.
That was very
You
good.
bet. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Bob.
Sure. Thank you. How do you stop recording on this thing? Stop share.